We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors. We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors. We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors.
Our city council meeting for our January 19th, 2022. Let's say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good. Minutes. Approve the minutes of the January 5th, 2022 meeting.
Move to approve the minutes January 5th, public hearing minutes for the final plat to be required, minutes for the public hearing annexing properties at 40 Fairway Drive, and minutes for the public hearing annexing property north end of Noble.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. All in favor of approving the minutes for January 5th, 2022 meeting minutes? Approve the January 5th, 2022 public hearing for the final plat of Beaver Pride. Approve the January 5th, 2022 public hearing of annex property at 40 Fairway Drive, and approve the minutes of January 5th, 2022 public hearing annex property north end of Noble Avenue. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimous. Okay. Is our auditor, Morgan Scar, is he on?
She is.
Oh, okay. There, you had in your packet the audit. She's gonna tell us about it, I guess. Oh, well.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Morgan Scar with the Maddox CPA Group out of Bozeman. So you have the audit packet, includes financial statements, and then our reports as well. So just as a general overview and a reminder, the audit reports are our responsibility. The financial statements and footnotes are management's responsibility. We prepare those as part of our audit based on the annual financial report that you prepare. But then it is your responsibility to ensure that they are sufficient and complete in accordance with GAAP. So I'm going to go over the reports and the letters we issue. I think I heard you all talking about earlier the city council page not being correct, and Jamie sent that back to me after we already assembled them. So we have that corrected in the PDF, and that's what will go through the state. So I'm sorry we didn't get those in the copy that you have there. So in terms of the report itself, the first report is on page 2-1. That's our audit report on the financial statements. So our report has multiple opinion units. So there are entity-wide statements with each major fund, et cetera. That's why it refers to opinions, plural. So this is our report on the basic financial statements based on the audit procedures that we performed. Our opinions are what's called unmodified, which means clean in audit language. So the second page of which is what you're looking for, it means that the financial statements as presented there are materially correct in our opinion based on the procedures we perform. The second page of that report addresses the other items in the audit package and then what assurance we give on those, if any, and the extent of the procedures that we perform on those. Following that is management's discussion and analysis, and that's the only place that really provides any comparative information. The financial statements themselves, as presented, are single year, which is required for the state. And so the management's discussion and analysis puts it a little bit more into plain English, talks a little bit about changes year over year, and if there's only one part that someone in the public or even anyone here is going to read, that's the part that I always suggest starting with because it really puts sort of some context around the figures in the audit. The only only accounting standard that was implemented this year that has any impact on your statements was GASB 84, and it's related to fiduciary funds. And so in the past, one of the fiduciary funds was considered an agency fund. It included payroll and claims funds. Now, under the new standards, that's no longer appropriate to report in the fiduciary funds, so that's been removed. Doesn't change how your basic funds, general fund, et cetera, are reported or how claims are processed. It's just that GASB no longer thinks that those are applicable to report in the fiduciary funds. They also changed some of the terminology, so there are some funds that previously had been reported as fiduciary funds, as private purpose trust funds, that now are reported as special revenue permanent funds, like cemetery perpetual care, et cetera. So you'll see a prior period adjustment that moves the classification of those. So it's moving those from what was previously put in the fiduciary funds. They're now showing up in your non-major fund financials. And so there's a $77,000 prior period adjustment to reclassify those. It's not an error correction or anything like that. It's just now under the new standards, that's the appropriate classification or categorization of those funds. The second report that we issue in the audit packet is all the way in the very back. It starts on row number 3-1, but it's probably just the last 5 pages of that report. It's our report on internal control and compliance. So the report starts out by defining a deficiency in internal control. It talks about the magnitudes of those deficiencies. So from an audit standpoint, in a nutshell, in order to design appropriate audit procedures to gather what we consider sufficient audit evidence to issue that clean opinion on the financials, we have to get an understanding of the design of your system of controls. it's impossible to audit the numbers without understanding all of the processes through which those numbers go through. You can't really separate those two. So if in doing that, we find any gaps that we consider to be deficiencies, we evaluate them and determine whether they require reporting. And the same thing for compliance. We perform tests of compliance with certain laws and regulations, provisions of contracts, etc., and then we report it throughout compliance. We did all those tests and we didn't note any internal control deficiencies or instances of non-compliance that would require reporting here. So that's all of that report is to say, is what the definition are, and then that we didn't find any of those. The second, so that's the audit packet, the big found audit packet, and the second communication there is our governance letter. It's probably 6 pages long, it's stapled. And it's our communication to you as council members outlining a lot of the things we're talking about. So our responsibility as auditors versus management's responsibility for the financial statements. We didn't have any disagreements with management, no difficulties in performing our audit or getting the evidence that we requested. If we did have any of those, they would be reported here. We did propose a couple of adjustments. You can see those are attached to the governance letter there, related to receivables and the classification of the ARPA funds that were received before year end. Nothing concerning and nothing that indicates any sort of deficiencies or problems in terms of maintaining your books. So let's see what else did I want to finish. This is our last year on our current 3-year contract with local government services. I know you have significant staffing changes happening, particularly in departments that relate to us. And so just wanted to point out that in order to retain independence to audit the books, you have to have somebody there who can prepare the underlying records, take responsibility for the financial statements and footnotes, prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. GAAP has become increasingly complicated for governments over the last 28 years, et cetera. So just want to make sure you have someone in place to do that so that someone can then audit those books as well. Any questions that I could help with?
Mr. Mayor, I move we accept the audit report as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the audit report. Any other discussion?
Call for question.
Question's been called for. All in favor of accepting the audit report, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Okay, the next one, the status of the river crossing. Kevin Johnson from Dow.
Are we on here? Can you hear me all right? Does that sound all right? Okay. All right, Kevin Johnson, project manager with Dow on the water system improvement project. I missed you at your last council meeting. We had a beautiful blizzard happening over the state, so old and wise that I am now, I punted instead of enjoying the white knuckle drive down here. So it looked about the same this morning when I left Bozeman, but as you know, it looked drier on the way down here, so we went over and it was just fine. So anyway, good to be here again. I'll kind of walk you through just a couple updates from the report that I gave you last for your council meeting a couple weeks ago. The project has 3 schedules, as you remember. Schedule 1 is the water transmission main. That's the only work that's been in process since they shut down on the water distribution system improvements here at the first part of November. So since that, I guess in the last month, they've completed 2 of the 3 jacket bores under Interstate I-15, a 370-foot bore, as well as under Pigtail Creek. The pipeline is now through the casings and connected. They're currently working on the bore underneath the Beaverhead River. So that's the last bore that needs to get done. Connections both sides, and then the final connection to the pipelines below the water storage tank, and the pipeline is done. They've successfully passed the pressure test on the first section, which is over 4,000 feet from the fairgrounds over to Pigtail Creek. That passed yesterday. That's in the process of being chlorinated. and they will just move that process forward, the water storage tank, over the next week to 10 days. They did hit something underneath the river right now. They've had to pull out some of the equipment, make some provisions to basically retool and try to pound the casing through whatever rock they've encountered there. It's an auger that's in there now, and it's held back from the end of the casing as they stuff it through so that the water doesn't just come right down the casing. So the auger has found something that it's not able to pass down the casing. So they're gonna pull it back, try to pound the casing through for a while, and they should be tooled up. If not already today, they'll be starting that process tomorrow to try to get through whatever obstruction they found. So Murphy's Law, you drill holes on both sides of the river, and you don't find anything to hit, and they've got something they're about 2/3 of the way across. So they'll get it done. They've got several backup plans in their pocket to get through that, but that's where we stand as of now. They would probably otherwise be done with that bore as of today. So it goes pretty quickly when it's cold. So they did find something solid that they got to work their way through. So the next thing they'll do, as I say, once they're connected to the river and connected, they'll progressively finish the pressure testing, the chlorinating of the pipeline, flush out the chlorine, pull back T-tests on there, and that pipeline will then be live and ready for use. We will then suspend work until they come back to finish the rest of the schedules 2 and 3. As soon as weather allows for temporary water to be in place for the distribution pipe replacements, as well as paving. They've got several blocks that they didn't get paved, including the service lines, so that work should be able to start pretty much immediately when they're able to mobilize back in here in the spring. So we've provided a series of correspondence that's gone back and forth here between us and Mungus. In November, we put them on notice and said, look, you got a lot of work left. You don't have a lot of schedule left. What is your plan? So they provided a letter back to us indicating, hey, because of supply chain disruptions and a number of COVID reasons, they said we were not able to do certain things that enabled us to work faster, and they requested additional time. So our job as the administrator of that contract is to evaluate that according to the provisions in the contract and provide an opinion back to the city. So we've provided that back to the city, and what we would recommend that the city do is kind of put together a committee of yourselves to really get into the weeds of that discussion and understand the details and help kind of provide a opinion back to the council. Whether that's your water sewer committee or whoever wants to volunteer to look into that, is up to how you want to handle that. So we've evaluated, we think there's merit in a certain percentage of what they asked for. But then there's some of that's in the gray area as far as, well, how much time really is warranted. In general, what you'll see in the response back is in the contract documents, it was laid out 180 calendar days. That's the contract time. The work was supposed to start like just a half a block away and work its way south so that we could get out of this downtown area as fast as possible. So once that water lane was in, a second crew, if you will, would do the street work, removal of the concrete, completion of the stormwater work on these 3 blocks of Idaho, while the water main crews just continued down Idaho, down Orr Street, and then back up Washington. So that basically had 5 months of weather acceptable to do that type of work. By mid-September, the water transmission main work was to start. And that really basically needed to be concurrent with the work that was finishing up out here and last for roughly 60 days. So not being able to start when they were expected to start. So notice of award, bids open April 21st, notice of award was, within a couple weeks of that. They could not get enough materials to start the project until July 26th. So that gave them August, September, and by the time you hit October, you never know if you're gonna be done paving or not, and or temporary water. Any water that's laid above ground, it'll freeze. So not this October, but the October before, it was below 0 for like 2 weeks. So you never know what you're gonna get in October. So at the start of the job, it was already discussed. It's probably best not to start right here. Tear up 3 blocks of Idaho, expecting that to take, a couple months, August, September, and potentially not get paved and downtown basically put back together before winter came. So it was agreed to start on the other end of the project and work the other direction. So that means you didn't have a concurrent crew working on Schedule 3, which was the Idaho Street improvements. So in a nutshell, there was some pretty significant disruption to the planned sequence of work that was put in the contract. So when that sequence cannot proceed as it was intended, there's this disruption that we have to take into account, including the ability to operate multiple crews. So the correspondence to date kind of puts that all on the table and then tries to spell out, as Mungus has put together, here are the implications that we feel that had on our work. We responded, said, okay, we agree here, we don't necessarily agree there, and recommended, we think you asked for Y amount of days, and we think maybe X is more appropriate. So that's the task before ourselves, a group like Mungus, ourselves, and the city, to sit down and hammer through that. We like to see that get done before they start work here again in the spring to continue the job. But they've got 4 months of work left. In reality, and that means you're going to have multiple crews. They're going to have to work, and they specifically indicate we bid the job to run multiple crews on the distribution system replacement work area. So that's what we're expecting to do when they come back. So I won't get any farther in the weeds. All that correspondence has been given to the city. I suggest everybody at least gets a copy of that, and then volunteer however you want to handle getting 3 or 4 or 5 people together. And we'll come over, we'll get Mungus here, and we'll kind of get all those discussions on the table. And then the city can ultimately decide what you want to do in terms of contract time. So, any questions about that?
How big a pipe are they pushing into the river?
36-inch, half-inch thick steel. And then the carrier pipe is the 18-inch HDPE plastic pipe.
So that takes the 18-inch rock when it starts messing up the auger in there.
Just about. Except you got to subtract the diameter of the shaft of the. So you got the shaft of the auger, and then you got the flights between the center and the inside the casing. So that center shaft is like 4 to 6 inches.
Yeah.
So it's more like what have you got? 15-inch rock. So that's why it's bigger than it needs to be, is for that very specific purpose. It's only an 19.4-inch outside diameter pipe. You'd only need like a 24-inch casing, but upsize it specifically for that. So when you hit a rock, you can get it out of there between the inside the casing and the center of the augers. So, and they haven't really pulled out anything very big. It's big.
Did you send Fred in there with the pick?
He said he will not go in there. He offered me to go in there. It's been done, but no volunteers as of yet. Actually, they have some equipment in the front of it that they can't actually pull out. So they can pull some auger flights out, but they've got a head on the front of that that's intended to be slightly bigger. So, yeah. I guess the other thing as far as what they need to do is you have agreements with the herbs and the wheat properties, and the hope is to get out of those fields and get them restored. So we're trying to, the task among us right now is to talk to his subcontractors to do the restoration, so the drilling, the disking drilling of the seed into the restored areas, and try to figure out what are the constraints they need to pick the window that's best for doing that. So right now, a lot of the backfill they didn't get done. They're using some of the backfill that came out of the trench to drive over on the way to the work site to do less damage to the field. So they don't want to strip that off until they're done with it. But now it's kind of frozen. Not really frozen, but partially frozen. So as they put that back on the trench when they're done, there's going to be some bigger clumps and need to get broken up so they can spread it, flatten it, and then drill it and seed it. So we're working with a narrow window here. So Herbs have indicated they need to put calves in their property like March. I don't know if that's our 1st of March or mid-March, but we're looking at March that they need to put cattle back in there. So we want this done before that happens. And, you know, we had the pre-bid for this project like April 11th last year, and he was already flooded, irrigating. So they have a narrow window in the spring. So the task I put before Mungus is we need to understand exactly what the constraints are to get this drilled and seeded, so we can know better whether that can happen this spring, or like now, you know, in the next couple of weeks, you know, if the weather allows, or if we have to basically wait for, you don't want it to thaw out. Well, as soon as it thaws out, it's mud, you know, so it's a narrow window they're trying to get. We want to get it seeded before, one, they got the calves in there, and two, they start flood irrigating. So we'll be kind of visiting that on a week-by-week basis, and hopefully Mungus can have his subcontractor on point, just so that when the opportunity comes, he can get out here on short notice and get it done. So as soon as they're connected and done at the river, they can pretty much backfill everything and be done accessing the pipeline alignment, and to where the only thing that's needed to do is to do that restoration. And hopefully they can pull the trigger quickly and get done, so that come spring, they're out of the way of Harris Wheat and John Earp's property. Okay, so there are a couple things. So the county at the fairgrounds, so there's a water line extension that needs to happen at the fairgrounds. There's a water line that is underneath some buildings over there. So we got together here a few weeks ago with the county, and the question as to whether that could get added to the contract and just have Mungus change order into Mungus's contract, and figure out how the county, cities shares costs or whatever, was dependent on all the conditions for which the current project was approved. And I primarily mean the environmental documents we put together. It had to be within the scope of what was already reviewed and included in the environmental assessment. So we ran that by DEQ, and they're good to go with that. So there was enough of that done. We don't need to step back and do any more environmental assessment. Actually, the entire fairgrounds was covered under what's called the Section 106 of some act related to cultural resources. And so that entire fairgrounds was inventory just to be able to do this project. So that was all covered, so we're to go from that perspective. So what we need to do is we need to design it, and we need to get it approved to DEQ, figure out what the actual costs are, the cost split, what the county's gonna put in, and then basically negotiate a change order with Mungus to complete that work. So that would probably go on the tail end of their work, if anything. So there's some time, but, so we need to get an amendment to the city and get approval to proceed with that design, so we can get that all taken care of and submitted to DEQ, and have that in motion in time for that to be added to the project. So ideally, we get this time allowance sorted out with Mungus here in the next month or so, because that will affect our contract as well. We're pretty much done with our contracted scope of services here for inspection at the end of that 180 days, which is pretty much going to be the end of January. So we have to figure out how much additional time is going to be offered, and we have to account for that in our construction administration services. So we try to cover that, as well as this fairgrounds design amendment, hopefully in one amendment, and we don't have to do another one. So that'll be coming here in the next couple of months as well. I think that's it. Any more questions or concerns? Okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
Very good.
Okay, moving on, mayor's report. Appoint and confirm city attorney, Marta Farmer. So I'd like to appoint her. I would like the council to confirm her.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Diane. Any discussion?
I'd like Barbara to get up and introduce herself if she'd like.
Okay.
Tell us maybe a little bit about herself.
Good evening, I'm Marta Farmer. I've been living here in Dillon since 2017. I moved down and moved into the old law office. It's now the dentist office, the one from across from the old Shopco that was Bill Ritzko's office, formerly Warren's office. And so I came in private practice there. I've been practicing law since 2008. I've lived up in Havre. That's where I started out. I've been over in Livingston, lived in Bozeman, and now I'm down here in Dillon. Grew up in Virginia, so you'll probably pick up on an accent sometimes. And other than that, I'm ready to get to work.
I have a question. Do you plan on still running your private practice along with doing city?
No, the only cases I asked the mayor if I could still take are adoptions and mediations as they arise. But I do have some to finish out. I've been in contact with several other parties, even including Mr. Fitch, just regarding, because I do practice criminal defense, so we've discussed those. I have no pending Dillon City Court cases, so that's not an issue. But wrapping up the ones that I do have, namely because we are at a lack of attorneys in this area, and ethically I did not feel comfortable just dropping all of my clients on such short notice. And so it has been discussed with the mayor. This will be my top priority. That was also discussed. And I still have my office that I'll maintain so that I can conduct my private business at that office. I also have my private machines. It's a fully working law office. So I won't, there shouldn't be any reason that there'd be overlap. And I'm very diligent about conflict of interest. And stay on top of those things. So I have been in touch with any relevant parties that I need to be on. And nothing large has popped up on the radar that we haven't already discussed and handled.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is this position is a pretty demanding position. It's, as Debbie can account for.
I've been manning my law office for the past year, essentially just me, and I'm pretty busy. Most people in town see me running around, and I even did so on maternity leave. So if I can keep that running, I know I told the city when I came that I wouldn't do this if Deb didn't come with the package. But yes, I realize how much work, gosh, listening to the report in front of me, I pick out quite a few things that are going to pop up on the radar. So, but yes, it is my top priority.
Because I know I'm on judiciary, and there's a lot of times we need legal counsel as to what we can and can't do as far as putting teeth into an ordinance. And I know a former attorney was at most of our meetings to help us out, but that's why I asked.
Yes, my intention is to be at the meetings, sit down in the upcoming days and get the schedules and get everything on the calendar.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Mayor, maybe this is more of a housekeeping question. Are we approving the full-time, are we employing a city attorney full-time or part-time? I don't.
Full-time.
But you're going to keep a part-time private practice?
No, I'm wrapping up the practice. I just will have to be able to do so as the cases expire.
Sure.
So obviously, at first there'll be a lot more to do as I start finishing up cases. But most of my cases are already set with dates that they'll be complete. So there's nothing that should drag out. And the ones that are longer term, I have plenty of time to discuss with clients finding new counsel if it looks like those, mostly dissolutions, divorces, are going to end up dragging on for too long, I can give those people ample notice and help them in finding new counsel.
Great, so that just by June 1st or something, everything, you would be full-time here at the city?
I'll be full-time starting out. I will be full-time. I've seen the work ahead of me. The hours are, they'll be there.
Great, great. I know that I had, it seemed like I always came to visit our city attorney probably on Mondays, and I rarely found him here, but I just was hoping that we would have a full-time attorney.
I'd like to say something too, that my experience with Marta, she's been very professional. I think she'll do a really good job. Congratulations, and I'm much happier with her being on the prosecution side than the defense side. I think anytime we can pull people away from our side, it makes me feel a lot better. But I think she'll do a really good job, and I was actually very happy when I understood that she had put in for the job. So congratulations, I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Jed?
Mr. Mayor, thank you for hearing me. I'm County Attorney Jed Fetch. I came just to say that I'm here to support Ms. Farmer's appointment. I'm also here to offer her and publicly offer so the commissioner, or rather the council, the commission will know as well, the city council knows that as she switches over to the white hat, as Chief Giverson put it, that my office will be able to lend support, assistance, aid. I was the former president of the County Attorneys Association. That we do work in conjunction with the city attorneys, and so I just wanted to lend my support on the prosecutor side of things to Ms. Farmer and congratulate her on her what appears to be her appointment and it's happening. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Jed.
Call for the question. Okay, the question's been called for.
Don't you have a motion first?
I did.
Oh, motion, yeah. It's been a long time since we had a motion. All in favor of appointing Ms. Farmer to our county, or city attorney, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. So. I'll swear you in, and then you'll be part of the team.
Then you get to go.
You get sworn out. Get sworn in.
Okay. Raise your right hand. I state
I,
your name.
Marta Farmer,
Do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend.
do solemnly swear that I will protect,
Support
support, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Montana,
the Constitution of the State of Montana,
and that I will discharge my duties of my office.
and that I will
Discharge my duties of the office.
discharge the duties of my office
With fidelity, so help me God.
with fidelity, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mara. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me speak.
Rich. Okay, the next item, approve council committee assignments. Your president put together your new committee assignments. Guess they have to get approved.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved by Raymond, seconded by Dan. Any discussion?
Yes, on the right-hand column, please omit the second entry of fire and order.
What do you want to put in order?
You have it on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, unless you want to have two
Yeah.
separate committees.
Gotcha.
No, I just wanted you guys to.
Double meet,
Just want to make sure it was in there.
all right? We'll just burn it up.
Okay.
Call for the question.
Okay, question's been called for. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it sounds like it passes unanimously. So we got your new, we'll probably go with the same format for times. I'll get them up on, and probably get you a new copy with all the times on them, so you have for your records.
Now, if any of you have a problem with the times that we have the meeting, please let us know so we can make adjustments. There's some meetings we held at 3 in the afternoon, some are 6 o'clock at night or whatever. But if there's a general, this doesn't work, I gotta go teach tumbling or something, let us know when it is so we can adjust those meetings.
Come on. You'd make a great sub.
Yeah.
Okay, next item. So reappoint Don Hand to the planning board as a council member, appoint Dan Nye to the planning board as a council member, and appoint Bill Schaefer to the planning board as a citizen member.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Russ, seconded by Raymond.
Whatever.
Discussion.
Call for the question.
Okay, question's been called for. So all in favor of having Don Hand as council member, and Nye as a council member, and Bill Schaefer as a citizen member to the planning board, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, next one, reappoint the following to the zoning board. Russ Swant as a council member, Jackie Erfel as a citizen member.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Diane, seconded by Dan. Any discussion?
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. All in favor of Russ as council member and Jackie as citizen member, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Next one, appoint the following to the zoning board. Mike Watson as a citizen member and Justin Ruley as a citizen member.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Russ, seconded by Diane. Questions, comment?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
excuse me, go ahead.
Are they both citizens of Dillon?
Yes. Yep, they're both kind of contractors or ex-contractors, so they have some idea of what's going on with the buildings going around town.
No, just clarification.
Yep.
They reside within the city limits.
Yep, they all both reside within probably Ward 4.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
What is a citizen member?
it's a member of the community that's not on the board. So most of these boards are made up of 7 people, or hopefully 7 people is max. 2 of them are council member and the others are citizens.
And how do you get to be how do you put your name in to be on a citizen member board?
Probably come visit with me or one of the councilmen, and then
Okay.
they'll get it to us, and then we'll
Okay, thank you.
look at it.
Call for the question.
Okay, question's been called for to approve Mike Watson as a citizen member and Justin Ruley as a citizen member. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next one, appoint the following to the Board of Adjustments. Joe Brandon as a council member.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Russ, seconded by Diane. Discussion?
Call for the question.
Okay, been called for by Dan. All in favor of Joe Brandon to the Board of Adjustments, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Those are new councilmen. Next one, appoint Diane Armstrong to the Library Board as a council member.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Russ, seconded by Dan. Discussion.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. All in favor of Diane Armstrong as the Library Board council member, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, next. Approve the resolution of the City Council of the City of Dillon to approve the Beaver Pride Phase 2 subdivision final plat.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Russ, seconded by Dan. Discussion.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. All in favor of approving the resolution of the City Council of the City of Dillon to approve the Beaver Pride Phase 2 subdivision final plat, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Next one. Approve the resolution of the City Council of the City of Dillon to annex a wholly surrounded tract of land owned by John Grant and zone the same.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ. Discussion.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. All in favor of the approving the resolution of the City Council of the City of Dillon annexing the wholly surrounded tract of land owned by John Grant and zoned the same, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Next one, approve the resolution of the City Council of the City of Dillon annexing a wholly surrounded tract of land owned by Shannon and Krista Madness and zoning the same.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ. Discussion.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. All in favor of approving the city of annexing the wholly surrounded land owned by Shannon and Krista Madness and zoning the same, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. The next one.
Bring it on.
Approve the second reading of the ordinance 468, amending Title 10.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Russ, seconded by Dan. Discussion.
I got a question.
Yes, George.
So, who's responsible for the curbs? I mean, when you have a city, you have to pave and the curbs, and I know the boulevards are responsible by the owner of the property, but who's responsible for the curbs?
To take care of them or replace them?
Either way. I mean, yeah.
I don't know for sure. I think it would be the landowner adjacent to those. What I've always heard, because I've asked that question about my house, and they say you're responsible for it. So, never looked into it. I bet.
Has there ever been, anybody know any liability issues as far as, like if we redirect, if redirected traffic and then they keep clipping somebody's curb? Well, does the landowner have some recourse?
Yeah, they probably could come and petition the city, say, hey, this is what happened, you were sending traffic around my corner, this is what happened.
Excuse me, I think, and Clacken addressed this before, and when it's the city is liable for the curbs, not the landowner.
Okay.
Because the question came up that why hasn't the city fixed some of them? Well, we didn't have the funding, or we didn't budget for it. Am I correct?
Yes.
But I think you're right on the grass and stuff in the boulevard. That is the responsibility of the landowner, but the curb is city. Now sidewalks is different. I mean, the sidewalks, the landowner is responsible for the sidewalk, but the curbs are city. That's the way I understood it.
So by changing this ordinance, I see we're probably accepting more liability if these trucks, large trucks, damage the curbs. So I just want to be sure that whatever the fee we charge them is commensurate with the potential damage. I don't want to see the city stuck for repairing a bunch of curbs. And I don't know what that fee, I have no idea. But if maybe the one that we're proposing would cover it, I have no idea.
Well, I think the fee is supposed to be discussed later on.
Yeah.
The fees got kicked back to.
Yeah, until we got our committee set, so next.
And one of the things I'd like to see, and I'll share with you now, is that we have a lot of trucks,
Excuse me.
like Town and Country, Safeway, Cisco comes through downtown. I think those companies should be paying either an annual fee of, and I'm just throwing this out, $500 a year, as part of their usage of our roads.
Well,
So I'd like to see that as part of the discussion when it goes back to the committee. Because we have a lot of those companies that come into town, they use our streets, and they use them, and we don't get anything in return, other than their services. But I don't want to run their services away because of the fee, don't get me wrong there. But I'd like to see, because we're charging Dillon Disposal, we're charging R.E. Miller, we're charging the agricultural businesses to use our roads. They ought to also contribute to our streets as well. Whether it's as I said, an annual fee of $500, $1,000, whatever, and they could regroup that from charges within the businesses they serve. Because I know a Safeway, they're using Walnut Street now as a parking lot. They're parking their semis back there. So I'd like to see that addressed as part of the fees.
So you're talking about out of town?
Yes, like Cisco, those type of, the companies that Safeway use, Town and Country.
Well, I suspect it'll have to be a charge to Safeways and to Town and Country, because Safeways, for instance, might have 10 different trucks.
Oh, yeah, I'm not just throwing this out as,
So
yeah,
we're
for
going to
discussion.
be in the same way Town and Country, they don't have the same truck, It
Yeah,
might be the same company, but they might be 1 or 10 different trucks, so you're going to charge each truck or just charge the business. I guess that'd be something for that.
Right now, there's no way to charge the business for it. There's no mechanism. But you got the thing with a good point.
Well, $500 a truck is going to get awful expensive for.
Yeah.
And like Safeway, they may have different trucks come in there, but they're only, it's that
Well, that's what I mean.
same schedule, I guess. So you charge the company this much money, it doesn't matter what driver comes in and Dillon, it's what I would say.
Well, see, they know it's the same company.
And that's what,
well, Town Pump and their fuel trucks,
Right.
you have the mini, I don't know which, yeah, we have all those that
Yeah.
come in and,
Of course, Town Pump never gets off the state highway.
yeah,
Better. I don't know how he's getting into Little Town Pump then if he's not getting off the state highway.
But still, I think this would be a
Yeah, but he
well
comes
worth
in
discussion to
doing
have.
all- there he comes
Because
in
with
the
their
alley.
fees, they would cover what Dr. Johnson's talking about is possibly rebuild some of those curbs that are being broken down.
That'll be a discussion for the street now.
Thanks.
Exactly, especially with the newer subdivisions where the sidewalk and the curb and gutter is on the boulevard. So you could potentially take out the boulevard, the curb, as well as the sidewalk. In the newer subdivisions where we've pushed the sidewalk out to the edge, folks.
You basically done away with the boulevard zone, is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yep.
Streets and alleys is not fun, man.
All right.
Call for the question.
Question has been called for to approve the second reading of the ordinance 468, amending Title 10. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. Nay.
Okay. Let's go through there. Dawn,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Russ,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Raymond,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Mary Jo.
Nay.
So it passes 7-1. Reports of the offices, library board. Mrs. Roberts is not here. I don't know, Diane, have you ever went to one yet, or?
No, I've got it on, I've got it on my calendar.
Mr. Mayor, Lori's last name's no longer Roberts.
It's no longer Roberts?
Oh, yeah.
I'll get it changed then.
On some of the forms we've got, it has been changed, this might not stay.
Yes.
Okay. Our attorney, Ms. Farmer. Got any reports?
Based on what I've heard,
One of them hearsay, huh?
I'm going to be very busy.
I just don't want to lose Beaver County case, keep going at that one. Planning board.
All right, before you have minutes from our November 9th meeting,
Move to accept.
Second.
Been moved by Diane, seconded by Russ.
Good.
The other way around. Any more discussion?
there is one under item 3 I'd like all of the committees to be aware of, and that's your jurisdiction, your committee, as well as what a conflict of interest is. And it isn't just within the committee, it's within the city government itself. You may not have a conflict with being where you're at, but because you're there, it may wander over to a different part of the city. So please think carefully before you go to a committee meeting. That completes my report, thank you.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for to approve the November 9th, 2021 regular meetings of the planning board. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. The zoning board.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you are the minutes of December 14th for your acceptance.
Move to accept.
Second.
Been moved by Dan, seconded by Diane. Discussion.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. All in favor of approving the December 14th, 2021 regular meeting minutes of the zoning board, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
So with that being said, I believe the zoning commission does meet next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Central Time.
We had two things that we need.
Is there 2 line items?
Well, they're not here, but they're in the minutes. For, two pieces of property, we need to start the zoning for the annexation and zoning property, F and G.
Okay. two of those and we'll get them on the
Oh, you're good.
Okay, Director of Operation, Mr. Hazelbaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything really specific. We're just moving along, doing our usual thing. Was so excited today, though. We had everybody at work today for the first time in probably 3 months because of either injury or operations and sickness or various things. We had everybody at work today. So I was real happy to see that and say that, and we're off and running for the year with various things and battles, so happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So you got all your Christmas lights down?
Yep, I only broke one light bulb this year. I was kind of pleased with that. I've improving.
I want you to take notice, I stayed far away from your.
And we appreciate that, Mr. Graham.
If you get up an hour earlier though, that would not be an issue.
I know. It's kind of hard to get this whole body out of bed to do that at 6 in the morning.
Well, he's plugging the lights.
But he was unplugging.
But again, though, with that though, I'd like to thank the college for the use of their lift truck. We couldn't do it without them. And also with Nick Hager and Mike Tyler doing that. Particularly Nick, he's afraid of heights, but he gets up in that truck and he straps himself in, and he's a trooper to do that, so we appreciate him doing that for Mike and myself, the old guys on the ground.
Any other questions for our Director of Operations? Moving on then.
Thank you.
Police Department, Chief Giberson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd ask the council to approve the officer activity report for December 21.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ. Discussion.
Sure, I'm glad the officers aren't doing anything.
Right.
Yeah, you only got 4 pages this week. Call for the question.
Question has been called for. So all in favor of approving the December 2021 activity report, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next one, any other questions for Mr. Giberson?
Chief, how's your vehicles holding up?
They're holding up. They're doing okay. I mean, we ordered it. We ordered one like in July. We'll maybe see it in July of 25. So hopefully they hold up till the end. But no, they're doing all right. This time of year, we kind of get some bumps and bruises just from, I mean, like we all do with our personal vehicles and stuff as well. So no, they're doing pretty well. I wish I was as happy about my staff as Mr. Hazelbaker is. I don't think we've had someone not on sick leave for the past 30 months. So yeah, it's a little better than we are there. So we're keeping going. We're doing good.
Thank you.
No other questions for Chief Giberson? We'll move on. Fire Department. Fire Chief Closey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packet, I would ask for approval for the city clerk report for the fire hall for December 2021. Approval for the budget versus expenditures for the fire hall for December 2021. And approve the December 2021 activity report.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Russ to approve, seconded by Dan. Any discussion?
Okay, Chief. On the workers' comp, unemployment, FICA, and the salaries, how come the city's half of that is still budgeted but not spent is such a wild difference in between?
That was due to the reimbursement from the DNRC for the time that I had spent out on the fire at Leisure.
Okay, but doesn't that get reallocated back into the unemployment taxes and such?
We'll have to talk to Janie about that. She said it would, she told me, and she told Mr. Clacken that it would look really, really wonky for the rest of the year. So
Okay.
maybe when Janie's in, we can talk to her about that, but she said that it would look strange for the rest of the year on that.
Okay.
Call for the question.
Okay, question's been called for to approve the city clerk report for the fire hall for December 2021, approve the budget versus expenditures for the fire hall December 2021, and approve the December 2021 activity report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we pass. City court.
Can I say just one thing real quick?
Oh, go ahead.
I would like to really thank the Dillon Police Department and Beaver County Sheriff's Department. Their quick response on the Sparky's fire saved the building. Had they done anything 2 minutes later or opened some doors like we could have a couple of years ago, things would have been a whole lot different. They kept the building locked down. They didn't go in, they didn't open doors, they didn't try to do anything. They gave me a report as I was coming to the scene, so that gave me an idea of where to place the trucks and things like that. Their actions saved a lot of heartbreak. So I would like to thank you personally.
I was home in bed. That was Officer Wheatley and a couple others, so, yeah, thank you for that. It's always nice to hear good things.
Any other questions?
Okay, no other questions, we will carry on. The city court, Judge Minor is not here, she was going to have a report, but didn't get it in time to get into the packet. She'll be here next meeting, she said. City treasurer, Mrs. Kip, she's not here, she's been working on our water funding for the last 3 weeks. And she was here, we were left almost 5:45 tonight with Kevin Johnson, get things up and going, so she looked pretty tired. So I told her you didn't have to come. Okay, next one, tree board, Miss O'Rourke.
In your packets are the minutes to the December 21st meeting.
Move to accept.
Second.
Been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ. Any discussion?
Was the meeting the 7th or the 21st? Because they had, the top of the page says minutes of City of Dillon Tree Board meeting, December 7th, 2021.
They were on, it was on December 7th. So there's just a typo on the agenda.
Call for the question.
You're the only one, Wade. All in favor of accepting the December 7th, 2021 meeting minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Okay, standing committees. So I don't know how many we have. The Judiciary Committee, it's gonna be Dan, do you have any?
No meeting, no report.
Finance Committee,
No meeting, no report.
Health and Order, Health and Order Committee,
Health and
No
order.
meeting, no report.
Fire and order.
Fire and Order. Okay. Health and Welfare.
No meeting, no report.
Did we get it on there?
Yeah, Diane Armstrong.
Oh, there it is, okay. Okay, Cemetery Committee,
No meeting, no report.
Parks Committee,
No meeting, no report.
City Hall Committee,
No meeting, no report.
Street and Alley Committee,
No meeting, no report.
Water and Sewer Committee,
No meeting, no report.
ARPA Committee.
No meeting, no report.
Okay, on to the next item then. Public comments on items of significant public interest not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the city.
I just gotta say, I'll be gone from the 22nd out of state until the 29th.
January?
Yes.
See it past 10 days. Finance is next week, yeah. Finance next Thursday.
It's 27th, finance.
Yeah. Thanks, finance, thanks.
Well, you
That was
cover
the
for-
pressure on us.
When this is the 28th,
Thursday.
no, the 27th. Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved to adjourn by Dan, seconded by Russ. All in favor?
Aye.